And we're back. Talk Spicy, Riptide Media Network, and 102.9 The Game app. I'm Coach Gene Clemens, joined right now by Miss Carita Parks of Double Take Sports and Bowie TV.
Yes, yes.
Absolutely.
So,
And
Bowie TV. I know for people who are not here, this
Bowie, my
area.
bad. My apologies. Bowie.
Nobody outside of this area has said it correctly. So,
Well, yeah, you probably didn't say it correctly until you were there.
well, I had heard of it by then.
Oh, okay. You're cheating. That's cheating.
I had heard of it by the time I started working for
I was
it.
about to say, because you were from an area that would definitely call it Bowie.
Oh, for sure. But yeah, I've been here 10 years though, so now I know
you got it down.
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, my apologies, Bowie.
Oh no.
TV. The WNBA season has started. The first 2 days are in the books. As I've talked about, Asia Wilson is the best thing in the WNBA. Caitlin Clark's going to have a lot of issues because people play defense in the WNBA. Last night, Angel Reese had an okay game, but that I just don't think is good enough for the number 1 and 2 pick. And then we're talking about the Washington Mystics, and there has been a lot of change over especially over the last few years with the makeup and design of this team. What did you see? What did you see game 1? What are you optimistic about? What do you still have questions about?
I was pleasantly surprised, I will say, because they have had so many changes. And since I've been covering the team, I feel like this is the biggest makeover. You don't have Natasha Cloud. Regardless of who changed, she was still there. You don't have Elena Deladon. And yes, she was hurt here and there, but when she was there, she was the mainstay of that team. So, it's a new identity. And considering that the New York Liberty went to the playoffs last year, the Mystics did too. They played each other. And this game, the final score, let me just double 80. Yeah, the final score was 85-80. Liberty won. But the Mystics played them hard. The pace of play was fast. I was impressed with that. They played them hard until those final couple minutes in the fourth. And then the game got a little sloppy. And New York was able to come back. So the Mystics dominated that game. So I think if they can clean up some of the mistakes, the mental mistakes, the turnovers, the missed shots towards the end of the game and close it out, then they are in good shape. And Shakira Austin, she's coming back from a hip injury. So she went through a big rehab, didn't really know what to expect from her. I think she was even surprised and happy for herself, but she had an amazing game. She looked like the old Shakira. And when she's out there, she's a force to be reckoned with. So that was pretty good too. What do I still have concerns about? My concerns at this point will be I'll continue to watch like the last quarter of the game, because in the preseason game against the Lynx, it was the same situation. The game should have been the Mystics, and down the stretch, they lost it. So I'll continue to watch that because that will be a concern for me. You can't dominate the entire game and then lose it late in the fourth quarter. So we'll have to see, how that pans out as we continue to move forward.
Well, I think that's the mark of championship caliber teams, right? Is the ability to close games out. Who's the woman that they go to down the stretch? Like when things are starting to get a little haywire, that's my question. Yeah. Who's the person that they can go, all right, she's a bucket, go out and stabilize things before everything falls apart. I don't know if they have that answer yet. And when they don't have the answer, when you play teams like New York, who a lot of people believe to be the second best team in the WNBA, if only on paper, but also because they were a representative in the championship game last year, you're going to have to close a game out when you have the lead in the third quarter, because they have the firepower to just run you down in the fourth quarter if you don't.
I mean, honestly, to answer your question, I do think they have Ariel Atkins. I mean, she is the the veteran on the team. She's one of the longest tenured. She's been there as long as Natasha and Elena were. I think as a team, they see her as a leader. But I believe across the league, because although she was a factor for sure, she was still in the shadows of Natasha and Elena. So I think that she's going to have to step up more and make her presence known. She was the leading scorer as well. So she's balling, but I just think as time goes on, she's going to have to make it. She's not a noisy person. She is kind of like a fly under the radar type, but she's going to have to be like that voice and that stabilizing factor for this team as they move forward. And I think, and I will say, Shakira too. I think she's going to have to step into that leadership role, but she gives me that fire. So I think she just got to do it. But I think that those are your two there, but they're really just going to have to step up a little more as we keep going forward. From a leadership perspective, they're doing what they need to do on the court.
So, obviously it's still, we're only a game in, so it's not like we're
one whole game.
Yeah, we're only a game in. So it's not doom and gloom or anything like that, but It is something to definitely watch, because the haves and the have-nots of the WNBA, when it comes to we know that the elite level teams have the ability to just flip the switch and put up a 45 to 48 point quarter on you like this. And then you're like, what just happened, right? And so I think it really behooves you that if you have a lead, you have to know how to sit on that lead and continue to press it forward. I want to talk about some of the big news that's happened in the WNBA, and then some questions that I have about how things are moving, because I really do believe that this is the time that if you are someone who is invested in women's sports, you have to go in right now. You have to be able to hard charge right now. You can't wait. Because the iron is as hot as it's going to be right now.
Agreed. Yeah.
Correct.
It's the hottest I've seen it. I was thinking about that before the season started. This is the most WNBA news I have seen before a season starts.
Absolutely. And you have, if you're advertisers that are in bed with the WNBA or marketing women of the WNBA, now is the time to push it forward. So my first question becomes, I know for a fact that A'ja Wilson did not have a signature shoe before Caitlin Clark's signature shoe deal. I know for a fact that did not exist. I'm not mad at the fact that Nike came back and made sure.
For a fact, because that's just how you feel.
No, I know for a fact.
Okay. That's what I was trying to decipher. Okay.
Yeah. I know for a fact. I made some calls to some people who know some people, and I know there were talks about a signature shoe. But there was not a signature shoe on the done. This is it. This is going to be there. The Caitlin Clark situation and the backlash from her getting a signature shoe before A'ja Wilson had one sped the process up. My issue is Nike. They have signature shoes coming in 2025. We have Angel Reese with a Reebok deal, and we haven't heard anything about when her signature shoe is supposed to drop. This is as hot as the WNBA has been. This is as hot as women's basketball has been. This is an Olympic year. Why do these women not have shoes that are ready to be dropped on the Olympics? Do you think that is a complete miss by these shoe companies?
I mean, obviously it is a complete miss for sure, because the best time is to strike when the iron is hot. Now, I don't know how long it takes to make a signature shoe. So Angel Reese, that's a pretty new deal. I don't know how long it takes for a shoe to, but Caitlin Clark, it was the shoe and the deal that dropped. I can't remember. Was it both or just the deal?
It was the deal and the announcement of a signature shoe at the same time.
Did the shoe drop? That's what I can't
No,
remember. It
no
had
shoe.
dropped. Yeah. So
I'm thinking it's 2025 for her as well.
Yeah, so I don't know how long it takes to make a signature shoe. So perhaps they should definitely be speeding up the process, because I don't see why it couldn't be done by the end of the season. But maybe for these shoe companies, they feel like, okay, making the announcement now makes the most sense. But if you want folks to buy the shoe, because let's just be honest, we don't know how Caitlin Clark or Angel Reese are going to pan out. That's the biggest question. So why not go ahead and drop that shoe while it's unknown? Because
Exactly.
next year, they might not be as hot. People will still buy their shoe, but they might not be as hot as they are now. I mean, for the Mystics, they're 2 games, the only 2 games so far that have moved to the Capital One Arena, which is a first in my tenure. I've been covering since 2019. First time they played at Capital One Arena since they moved to the Entertainment and Sports Arena, which is their home, is Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese, the Sky game and the Fever game. That's major. So I do think that the shoe company should definitely speed up the process, but I don't know what they.
Like I was looking because I was curious. Like when you know, we all could see this coming. That's my problem, is we could see this coming. It's not like the Olympics popped out of nowhere.
For sure.
Like it's not like the Olympics popped out of nowhere. We already knew Caitlin Clark was going to be the number 1 overall pick. Like, I would have already had prototypes ready.
But I think that this is still this is an example of the difference, or the work, I should say, that still needs to be done when it comes to women's sports, right? Because if this was a big NBA player, a big NFL player coming down in the draft, those shoes would have been ready. Like you said, those prototypes would have been ready. But as we've seen, it's always slower on the women's side. Should it be? No, they have a prototype with all the other sports that they cover. Or all the athletes, I should say, that they have, who have shoes and who have lines, so they know how this works. They know how this works.
Yeah, I'm just frustrated. I'm just frustrated from the standpoint of, if this is how you're moving, don't then come back to me a year later if Caitlin Clark isn't then as hot as fish grease, if Angel Reese isn't as hot as fish grease, and tell me, oh, well, look, the appetite died out. No, you didn't do the things to ride the wave the way it should have been ridden. And if so,
the announcement,
absolutely,
and the product shortly after.
Exactly, especially in what is an Olympic year, which we know even more than men's basketball is really big for the women's game. And what they're able to do. So, like, I just look at that and I'm like, I don't quite understand what the thought process was with making these announcements and then not having anything to show, like not even a logo, like not even, hey, this is what we think this is, the logo is going to be for these signature shoes. And with Reebok, there is nothing. Like there's nothing. All we got is Angel Reese's picks. Oh, well, these are things that Angel likes, but nothing, like no fashion line, none of the things that can like show, okay, well, this is what she does and what she likes and how she operates. And I just feel like it's a complete miss, because you have people who've leaned into these areas and you're not taking advantage of it. It doesn't really make any sense to me. Another thing that I was thinking about, the WNBA has 3 rounds in their draft. 36 elite level collegiate women get drafted in the WNBA draft, 13 of them made a team. 13 made a team. Similarly, last year we had first round picks not making teams. It's been a consistent theme. Is the WNBA draft just a show and not actually what it should be, which is to replenish the talent or to add to the talent of these teams? Because what I read from it is these WNBA teams don't feel like they need help. Well, what I see from the outside is they need help.
The players have talked about this actually, and they see it as more of there's not enough teams. Like there should be more teams in order, because there are a ton of talented players. I don't know if this came up later, but there's a ton of talented players. But their argument is we need more teams in the WNBA for these players to have a place, because there's only so many teams that they can go to and actually make the roster.
Well, here's my theory, right? I don't think a draft is a viable model for every entity. Even if you add 2 more teams, you're talking about rosters of anywhere between 12 and 15. You're only talking about 30 more players. You're still going to run into the same situation. And even if they get to the number, the 16 that they want to get to, which I believe is 4 more teams, right? They're still going to run into the situation of, if I have a draft that's 3 rounds long and we are picking talent, these teams are not going to need those new 3 people that they're adding, and it makes it a farce.
Well, what am I missing though? Because I mean, you can say the same thing for NFL draft, the NBA draft. Like some of these guys, they go to. I mean, unless you're like in the first few like rounds, some of these guys they go to teams and end up getting cut. Unless you're trying to think.
Never is a first round draft pick not making.
I didn't say a first round draft pick though.
But in the WNBA, we have first round draft picks not making.
Hasn't made a team.
Off the top of my head right now, I do not know, but one got cut this year, and I believe one got cut last year. And
I don't know. Like I personally, I'm not saying I haven't seen that. I thought we were talking about some of the folks in the later rounds. So I'm not saying it didn't happen, but I just don't know of that scenario.
Yeah, and my issue with it is, why do you need a draft if you're not going? If the players aren't even making the team? Oh, here it is. 13th overall pick in the draft. Maxwell, Brenna Maxwell. Like she was a top 13 pick. She got cut by the Sky.
Yeah, I mean, now that's crazy.
Like, come on, what are we talking about here? Like, so like if she can't make the Sky, right? And I understand. Did she get cut by the Sky, but she couldn't make any other team? Right. So my thing is, why do you need a draft if you don't have 12 teams that all have viable needs? Then just have free agency. And now you can have people bid.
Are doing it to, I mean, I think they are doing it to elevate their visibility, to be honest. So I hear you, but I don't feel like just because first round draft picks get cut that they should not have a draft, because a vast majority of those first round draft picks don't get cut. You might have, I don't know of several first round draft picks getting cut from a draft year. So I don't think that they have to kind of dumb down what they do just because of that. I feel like they're trying to increase their visibility. The WNBA draft is a way to do that. It is a way to get the players out, names out there, the brand out there on a larger scale. people do watch it who don't necessarily engage in the WNBA. So I hear that, but I don't feel like that should have impact or affect what they do as far as the draft is concerned. Because it's not a majority of those women getting cut that are in the first.
So you don't think it's a bad look for the WNBA that only 13 of the 36 draft picks actually made a team?
But there's not 36. So the televised portion of the draft is typically like the first round.
No, I know, but I'm just saying, like, overall, there's 3 rounds, there's 36 players taken in the draft.
Yeah. I think it depends on who it is. I think it depends on who it is. I don't, it's in covering it and being in it. I haven't heard it come up. Like, I haven't heard that come up as a negative perspective on the WNBA draft itself, or even the WNBA. So from my perspective, I don't see anything wrong with them trying, because I feel like it's coming from a different place of why they're doing it. Do they need to tighten up the process as far as that's concerned? Yes, but does it mean they shouldn't have a draft? I don't feel like that.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of a better way to be able to A, disperse your talent, B, not have the negative connotation that comes with most of the talent not making a WNBA team, but also then having a way to better pay the people who are the elite levels in there. So if you didn't have a draft, if it was just free agency, then now a player like Caitlin Clark goes to the highest bidder.
Mm-hmm.
And now that becomes the news. Now your Angel Reese, goes to your highest bidder. Your Cardoza goes to your highest bidder.
But the fact is the league isn't there yet. I mean, they're just getting charter flights. So, charter flights, there's a lot of things they're just getting to. Not to say it could never happen, but the fact of the matter is they're just not there yet.
Yeah, I just think that and it's just the way I'm looking at it from the perspective of, hey, what am I saying? If let's just say Atlanta. Atlanta's not very good. They haven't been very good in a while, probably since Angel McCoughtry was there. They're drafting every year. Like, how is the best talent in college not making that roster consistently is it because I think there's just 2 things in play here. A, I think the WNBA holds on to players way too long. They're not as cutthroat as some other leagues are when it comes to the age of players. And maybe even sometimes the pocketbook of players. Like, you have these players who are not what they used to be, but still have names that are still out there, and you have younger talents not being pushed. I think that could be a slight misstep on the league, because you're not replenishing it with enough younger talent, and then that results in you having these rosters that are packed, where you can't bring in another rookie, right? Also, why do you need 36 players being drafted? Like, you can just reduce the draft. Like, just have the draft be a first round, and then everybody else can be free agents and find their way onto a roster wherever you are. Because it's not like they're televising the entire draft. They're only televising, the first round, maybe I think the first round and into the second round, I forget. But there's a premium on those first rounds. So if that's all the talent that's really necessary, that have an opportunity, a legitimate opportunity to make the team, then only have that amount of people be available. I just don't like seeing a bunch of second round picks getting cut from teams, because it just makes it seem as if, well, what's the use? This league is already where it's supposed to be. It was just something I was thinking about and I was raving on when I was talking about the fact that the shoe companies really aren't pushing the gas pedal like I would love to see them pushing the gas pedal on these shoes.
I think there's a lot we'd love to see with the WNBA, but I feel like we also have to kind of look at people where they are. I think the great thing about the WNBA is, although it's a slow process, which is unfortunate, they are trying to get better. It's just a much, much slower process. The resources are different. It's just different. So yes, there's a lot of progression that can happen, that should happen, but it's going to take time.
Yeah, I think, and I agree with you, right? I also think that in some of this has been the WNBA getting in their own way. Like the charter flight thing was silly because people were ready to pony up and have charter flights several years ago, and they kept slicing it down and saying, "Oh, well, we can't." Like that's somebody getting in their own way. You messing up your own blessings, right? So, I want to get you out of here on this because I know you got to go. The NFL schedule dropped.
Yes.
Obviously, we know about the game with Kansas City, game 1. We know about the game with Houston on Netflix. What's one game that you've looked at on that schedule and go, this is you're going to be locked in for all of them, but people are going to be locked in for this game?
Let me see.
Because I was tight. I was a little tight when I was watching the schedule release, and I saw that Netflix, like, I don't know the bag that Netflix paid. They clearly paid a massive bag because they got 2 really good matchups, like really good games.
That's what people are doing these days. So I think a lot of folks are going to be locked in on that Chargers game. It's the Harbaugh Bowl. Jim and John Harbaugh. Jim coming back to the NFL. So I think people are going to be locked into that one to see which Harbaugh is going to come out with the win. But also, I think Justin Herbert and Lamar Jackson, that's going to be interesting to see too. So I think that'll be a really good game that's going to get a lot of eyes.
Absolutely. I agree with you. It'll be interesting to see because we know that the old Baltimore coordinator is now over in LA hanging out. It'll be interesting to see how much of that offensive game plan that started in San Francisco, then made its way to Baltimore, will make its way with Justin Herbert as more of a runner than we've seen in the past, because we know he has running ability. That is a definite game that'll be.
Importantly, though, there's a lot of former Ravens players with the Chargers now. You got J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards over there. I'm sure I'm missing somebody. In addition to the coordinator, Ravens director of player personnel is over there. So it's going to be like old Ravens versus new Ravens. So it's a lot going on with that game.
Yeah, and I'm hoping that J.K. Dobbins can get on the field and restart what was looking like a really promising career. Gus Edwards seems to be the guy who can overcome any injury. He just keeps coming back from injuries and doing what he's done. So
he had a great season his season last year was great. He had a great season.
Yeah, no, he's going to fill that same role for them that he filled with Baltimore, and so it'll be fun to watch. Hopefully those guys get on the field. Carita, I appreciate it. As always, we will touch base again, talk more about the Mystics and what they've got going on in the WNBA as this thing keeps going. Make sure that you follow Carita at Carita C Parks on X. Make sure that you're tapping into Double Take Sports and to Bowie TV.
Yes.
Not Bowie. Bowie TV. Bowie TV for all of their content. Carita, I appreciate you.
No problem. Thank